Everybody, and welcome to Stereo District Library. I'm Callie Muddy, the director here, and we are thrilled to have Rosine Downing and Chris Wood here to talk about their mother's artwork and her journey to Morenci and the art that she created along the way. People in the back should be quiet so you can hear Rosine and Chris. They're doing a quite short presentation, and then they'll take questions. And then we have an art project while you eat or while you wait for the food to be ready. You can make a bookmark. We have liquid watercolor paint, and then also some those little squares they have, and you dip your brush into it. So pre-made bookmarks that you can just color as if you were coloring with a crayon, but with paint. Or use our little palettes of liquid watercolor paint that is really vibrant, and you'll have a good time doing that. You can use your placemat to test the paint colors on, and there's also a little paper towel that you can use. Okay, so everybody must eat before they leave because we have a lot of food. I don't want to forget to tell you that. We are filming Facebook Live because some people can't attend. So if you're talking when you shouldn't be, everybody in the world is going to know. And so if you really don't want us to be doing that, let us know. If you're a witness protection plan or something, just let us know that so we don't keep doing it. But here's Rosine. Oh, here's Chris.
Hello.
Hi. Good morning.
Rosine and I would like to thank you all for coming. We're here today to share with you a little background on our mother, Jeannine Price's artwork, her interest in drawing, and how those textiles came into being. And Rosine will start with some key information of her life in France during World War II.
Well, from an early age, as a little girl, our mother said she just loved drawing and painting. And she often created little drawings for her friends and her family. That was where she began her little art interest. She was born in Paris, the youngest of 3 girls. The oldest was Rosine, and Berthe, who many of you know as Betty Harper here in Morenci, was the middle child. But in 1940, when our mother was 13 years old, their lives would completely change. World War II was at their doorstep. The family spent the next 5 years hiding in an old chateau in rural France with other refugees. The name of the chateau was La Patoussie. And this is a picture of La Patoussie. And it's just an old chateau. It's been renovated, and there are new owners, and it's called a gîte now, which is like a bed and breakfast, but with no breakfast. But when they were living in it, it was very sparse. I mean, there was no electricity, no heat. But there were many refugees who came through here. Some of them stayed for maybe 2 or 3 days. My mother's family decided to stay for the entire 5 years of the war. So that hundreds of refugees went through. We stayed at the bed and breakfast or gîte 3 or 4 times. So it's been quite an experience to be able to do that and see the rooms that my mother stayed in. And actually there's an actual door in one of the rooms that says Monsieur Beam, and that's our grandfather's name, and that was the door to the room that they stayed in. And just by coincidence, it was permanently kept there, so that's kind of a neat thing for us. Here in La Patoussie is where my mother met an influential person who encouraged her with her art. And this gentleman is Monsieur Conrad Kicker. He's a famous Dutch artist who the government put in charge of the chateau and the refugees. Monsieur Kicker had made a studio in the tower of the chateau right here. and he was at the top of the tower, and that's where he had his studio, and he created many paintings during the war in his studio. One of which was a painting of our mother's older sister, Rosine. This is the painting. And when my mom and dad were doing a little bit of research to make their book, to create the book of Jeannine, they were on the internet one day and they put in Monsieur Kikere's name and this picture came up. And my mother was just in shock. She could not believe it. She'd never seen it either. So she was just shocked that her sisters, and so she called her sister and friend, and they were just all excited, very excited about it. But Monsieur Kikere did see some talent in my mother's drawings and paintings, so he gave her some instructions on painting techniques. And she remembered a lot of those, and they were helpful for her. She really enjoyed that. In 1945, the war was coming to an end, and their family moved to Paris to begin a new life. Our mother's grandmother valued education, and she sent Berthe, or Betty, to secretarial school. And our mother spent a year at l'École des Beaux-Arts on the left bank in Paris. That's an art school, and it was on the left bank. Here she had her, this is an old portfolio, and this is where she kept all of her old paintings and her drawings. And this, like this one for instance, you can see the texture. That's what the paint fabric samples were painted on, is something like this. And we found all the drawings that you see here we found in this old portfolio. They were from her days when she was at the school learning to draw and paint. After she went to the school, she got a job working for a gentleman in his atelier or workshop, designing and painting these beautiful textile samples. She worked there for about 1 year, and then in April of 1948, she made the voyage to the United States. About 6 years ago, Chris and I refound these samples in her old portfolio, and we decided, it's like a light bulb went off, and we thought, why are these just staying in this old portfolio? And so we decided to frame them and give them to her grandchildren and ourselves. And we really wish we knew something more about the process of these, because we knew she painted them, she designed them and painted them, but we don't know how it was transferred into the textile business. So, and we've done some research, but just can't seem to find anything on that. So, and that's the end of the little presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
You never saw that portfolio at all until after your
We
mother?
did. When we were little girls, we saw that. Yes, we saw it. And we knew it was there, and then we kind of forgot about it. She put it in an old suitcase, and we, you know, completely forgot about it. And then we were helping my dad clean out some things, and we found the portfolio, and it was just like I said, the light bulb went off, and it's like, why are these in? Because they're beautiful paintings. So, any other questions?
Did your mom meet your dad in France or here?
She met him here.
Here?
She came to the United States to her sister, Betty, came first. She was married to G.I. Vernon Harper in Paris. They came back to Morenci. What a culture shock. They came back to Morenci. And then a year later, my mom came to visit Betty. And my dad is Vernon's cousin. And so they introduced her to my dad, and she ended up staying here.
Wow.
Yeah. Any other questions? Colleen?
What kind of paint did she use?
We're not really sure. I don't think it's an oil paint. It doesn't appear, do you think I don't think it's an oil paint.
I would say more, it's almost like a watercolor, but
Yeah,
but
a texture.
acrylic colors, so I mean, it's
Yeah.
bright.
Very bright color, some kind of a watercolor or water-based paint, I believe.
Rosine, when you say textiles, like
fabric.
She'd make curtains or like.
Well, it could be, I don't know, they were just designs that they sent to a textile manufacturer,
Oh, okay.
and then they would put them on fabric, but we just don't, I've looked and looked and we cannot find
Spreads anything.
So
the
interesting.
process. So I wish we could find more information on that. Any other questions at all?
Rose, have you heard of a company named Spoon Flower?
No,
You might contact them if you want some fabrics.
okay, cause you're a fabric lady, so, yeah, okay, spoon flower, I'll have to remember that, okay. They might have some information,
Information, or you might be able to get some made.
okay, okay. Yeah, see, this was we think it was around 1946, 47.
Well, I don't think they're that old, but they do, I mean, I know that they take other things and make fabric from it.
Okay, okay,
At least that's my take on them.
oh, okay, alright, that's interesting, yeah, I'll have to get back with you and
Okay.
figure that out, okay. So, anyone else? Okay, well, enjoy looking at the, paintings and drawings, and thank you for coming.
Rosine, did your mom ever pursue any of her art career over here?
Not really, but she painted a lot, and she did shows. She did art shows.
I never knew that. I mean, I've
Oh, yeah.
known
Yeah, she
her
did
all my
art
life,
shows,
but I
and
never knew that.
She painted on, like saws and, I don't know, milk cans and.
Oh, I saw him at your dad's.
Yes,
Some of the
yes,
stuff she did, yeah.
Yeah, so she did basically, not to a real huge extent, but that was her hobby and she enjoyed it.
Where did she have her shows?
She had it mostly in Toledo, Ann Arbor, just in the area, basically. She was a member of the Toledo Artist Guild and, she did shows with them in different areas.
So did any of your families get the artistic gene?
Did they want?
Get that artistic gene?
Chris and I, Chris and I both like to,
How
yeah.
about your grandkids and great grandkids and stuff?
Tate enjoys, don't you? Yeah, Tate
Yeah.
enjoys, yeah. And Tyler, I think Tyler likes, he always used to like to draw, I remember. Yeah. And Chris's girls, Mackenzie's very good, very artistic, yeah. And then Betty's son, Jim, who's passed away, he was very good at art also. No, she didn't have any, I don't think she did. She didn't seem to have any interest in that, so.
What was that question?
Whether Betty had an interest in it, but.
I was gonna ask the same, her other,
And Rosine, Aunt Rosine, she painted a little bit, I think a little bit, but
She loves singing.
she was more of an entertainer, she loved to sing, so she was an entertainer.
so, that's your Aunt Rosine? And that-
Yes, this is my Aunt Rosine here, as
Was
a
she
young
the only
girl.
one who modeled for,
She modeled for Monsieur Kikere, yes.
she's the only one of the sisters?
Yes,
who-
yeah. Yeah, she was shocked when she saw that painting too, she had no idea. So, yeah, she didn't know it was out there. It's in a private collection now, they've sent us the information, and it is in his book. I have it here. It's right here in his book. In the bottom, so. He was, at one time, this Monsieur Kikere did have a exhibition at the Toledo Art Museum many years ago, so, and he's pretty prominent, he's a pretty well-known artist.
How much pages have you looked at?
How many pages have I looked at in the book?
Yeah.
In this book? I've read a few of them. This book is all written in French.
That'd be a tough one, huh?
But you know how to do it. All I have to do is look at
Kind
it.
of.
Could you talk more about the Jeannine book?
Sure. This is the little book that my mom and dad we're, looking into the different, information to create this little book. When she was, about her last year of her life, she had heart problems, and she just kept saying, I need to get this down on paper. She says, my life was interesting and I want the children and the grandchildren to know about it. And so we've got maybe about 12 recordings of her voice telling her story, and then we wrote everything down and put it into this book. So it's not a published book, but it's just a little book that we made for the family, basically.
Is there one here at the library?
Yes, this was the library. Do you have one?
That's an extra copy, we do have one available to check out in the library.
If anyone wants to check it out.
And we could make that one available to check out also. It's a really interesting book.
Yeah, it's not going to win a Pulitzer Prize for writing, but it's just her telling her story. So it's just interesting, I guess.
But when you read it and you read about her life and then see the artwork, it just makes, I don't know, it makes it all come together and,
Yeah.
and then this program also.
Okay.
And what she put aside to be a mom,
Yes, in a way, yes, yeah.
Sure.
Because,
this history she had, this background she had,
mhm.
she kind of got busy being a mom and.
Yeah, exactly, and that she didn't, and I think she was it might have been a little more intimidating here in the United States than, to go on with artwork, and especially from Morenci, where do you start,
Right.
so. Any other questions?
What year did she come?
1948,
Okay.
it was just after the war.
And, I mean, that's what everybody, all the women here were doing, was being
They
a
were
mom,
housewives, yes,
housewives,
yeah,
and.
they were housewives, yeah, exactly.
Which would have been a lot of pressure.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Were her parents still alive your grandparents, when she came here then?
Oh, yes, yeah. Yes, yeah, we met our grandparents.
In the sixties.
We went, Chris and I went as little girls, we went in 1964, we met our grandparents. And they lived a few years after that. My grandfather passed away first, then my grandmother. So they had a nice life after the war. Any other questions?
How often did your mom and dad go back and forth? Did they?
They went, after that first trip in 1964, I think there were a few years lapsed.
After he retired.
Yeah, and after he retired, I think they went every other year.
Nice.
They went back, and my grandparents were still alive at that time too, so they were able to go back and visit them,
Beautiful.
and so, yeah. They were living in Brussels at the time, my grandparents were. But my aunt, Rosine, lived in Paris, so they would go between the two cities,
Yeah.
so.
So do you have cousins and stuff there yet?
Mm-hmm. I have two cousins living in Paris, and another cousin who lives in La Réunion. It's a little island off of Madagascar in Africa. That's sort of like what we have Hawaii, where people go for retirement days. They go. It's a French island, and they go there. So, and I talk to my cousin in Paris quite often. We call about once a month, she'll call. So, Nancy?
Yeah, so we lived across the street from you for 9 years, and I never knew anything about this.
Oh, yes. She didn't talk a lot about it in the early years, no. Yeah.
You have to read the book.
Yeah.